This video is sponsored by Kitsch.
I don't know what it is. It's subconscious. I don't want to kill myself. I want to fly.
No, Tom. It's very, very dangerous.
Would it make you feel any better if I didn't want you to do this?
Yeah, much.
Then feel better. Feel better. 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 Better.
Following the success of Mission Impossible in 1996, its leading star, Tom Cruise, felt more open to taking on more ambitious projects. First, he starred alongside his then-wife, Nicole Kidman, in director Stanley Kubrick's final film, Eyes Wide Shut. But with that film's extensive 15-month shooting schedule coming to an end, Cruise was eyeing a Mission Impossible follow-up.
Bob Town and I had ideas about if we ever did another mission, which way we would take it. I felt out of any picture that I've made, this, for me, could be fun to have sequels.
However, Cruise didn't quite see this little project of his as a sequel. Both he and producer Paula Wagner were very intentional in not wanting it to be a repeat of the first film, with Cruise saying he wanted it to be able to stand on its own as a picture, while Wagner asked, how do you make a movie and make a second one that makes it unique? What's unique about it? What's different about it? What keeps the series going? Cruise's goal at the time was to have a different director for each film, so they always felt different, and had a style shift from film to film, trying to avoid the stigma surrounding sequels. Although, how much of this was always the plan and how much of it was a hiccup is debatable. The director of the first film, Brian De Palma, had made it very clear he did not want to direct a sequel to the hit film, and with the rumors surrounding the strained relationship between he and Cruise, finding someone else was more of a must than a want. Originally, Oliver Stone was tapped for the project, with a script going into production under writer David Marconi, featuring some bizarre plot elements like hallucinations of the supernatural. But ultimately this version did not come to pass, and Stone and his team were punted out, necessitating yet another director. And this new director would be someone with a rather different background.
How does it feel to be called the best action director in the world at the moment, and the Mozart of mayhem, and being idolized by Hollywood directors, etc.?
I feel very happy, and also I'm very grateful to anyone who gave me a great support. But I must say I'm not the best. I'm still learning. I still need to learn more, and I still need to learn from all the great filmmakers, and also I need to learn from the audience.
The iconic Hong Kong action director John Woo was out on a shoot in Brazil for a Nike commercial when he got a call from Tom Cruise about directing the film.
You know, John is, first of all, I admire him as an artist and a human being, and I think that reflects in his movies, even though there is a violence in his picture, but there's a humanity that he has as a person that I think carries over in every shot of his.
Woo was known for his intense action sequences, and as BBC put it, balletic violence, Mexican standoffs, and doves. It would take us a long time to cover John Woo's entire filmography, but perhaps most influential at this time was his 1989 film The Killer and the 1997 film Face Off, which remains one of the highest rated films in the careers of its iconic stars John Travolta and Nicolas Cage. Face Off was what really attracted Cruise to Woo for the role, with the director saying he loved Face Off. He loved all of my Hong Kong films. Initially, Woo was concerned about signing on to direct this film as he was worried that they would need to try and emulate the first film and the proclivities of director De Palma. Cruise, reassuring him that he wanted each film to be unique, kept those fears at bay.
John Woo embraced those ideas and came to the table with his own ideas about the character and the picture and what he envisioned Mission to be.
Now, just like with the first movie, the focus was on the film's bombastic action sequences, which were planned first with the story being woven around it. Screenwriter Robert Towne returned from the original film and spoke to this dilemma, saying, "It was an interesting problem because by the time I got involved, there were certain action pieces around it which the story had to be written, or at the very least, the story couldn't interfere with the action pieces. These scenes, through the storytelling process, had become solidified in John Woo's mind. I won't say those sequences had a life of their own, but they were there and had been developed. In a movie like Mission, as in all of John's movies, his action sequences are carefully choreographed. They were there, and the story, at the point that I came along, was not there to support the action. This dynamic made the writing process for Mission Impossible 2 very different to your average film. With Towns saying, "What I've always responded to is movement. Character is automatically expressed more quickly and eloquently through movement than through dialogue." Giving an example of a particular stunt that came to mind, Tom called me up and said, "Why don't you come out to the airport and watch the last shot?" So I ran out to the airport, went into this big hangar, got into this lift, went up 7.5 stories, got hitched to a bar with this thing around my waist so I could lean over the edge, which was dizzying. Tom greeted me. He said, "Hey man, watch this." And with that, he dove 75 feet and ended up 6 inches from the camera. Now, of course, he was on a sling, but it was a major stunt for anybody, and he did a flip in the air. Though they really planned around action and stunt pieces to drive this story, the director still wanted the film to have a more human element to it, and was intrigued with a love triangle.
Basically, it is a triangle love story. It means the good guy and the bad guy, they're both in love with the same girls.
Which is funny considering a similar dynamic was scrapped from the first film. As Wu put it, he wanted it to be sexy without needing to show any sex, saying it was more elegant that way. But even with this more characterful element, the action still took precedent. For example, one scene was supposed to be just a conversation between Hunt and Hall, but Wu decided he wanted them racing cars down the road.
Pull over and listen to me, will you? Just listen.
Listen to what?
I need your help. I think you could use mine.
Attention. Incoming call from Mission Control. Connecting you to Mission Control for further information as your assignment is Oil Baron Salvo Kurlowski. While you wait, please enjoy this short message from our agency sponsor, Kitsch.
Being a secret agent could be taxing not only to your personal life and physical health, but also to your skin. Do you have irritated, dry skin every time you take off your mask? Is your hair thinning out from all of that time cooped up under a mask?
Yes.
Do you wish you could get that same perfect complexion and long hair Tom Cruise has in Mission Impossible 2 without resorting to Scientology?
Yes, this is exactly me.
Well, you're in luck. Today's sponsor, Kitsch, is here to help with their rice water shampoo and conditioner bars that help repair damaged hair follicles and prevent split ends. Rice protein shampoo bars have been shown to increase hair volume 20% after 5 washes. It encourages hair length and density and boosts shine. This nourishing paraben, phthalate, silicone, and sulfate-free bar reduces single-use plastic by replacing 2 liquid bottles. Kitsch also has a great soap bar holder to help keep your bars nice and dry for when you need them next time. After you're done showering, throw on their hair towel, lay down on their satin pillowcases, and relax. I was pretty skeptical about using bar soap at first. But after using it, my hair is so much softer and healthier now, especially after having to wear this mask all the time. If you're a secret agent too, or have that special someone who would love this, check out Kitsch today with 25% off site-wide with the code Voyager. Kitsch ships in the US and over 90 countries internationally. So with the code today, the shampoo and conditioner bars are less than $25. Now that we have our hair looking great for the mission, let's get back to it.
Mission Impossible 2 would enter production on April 18, 1999, and with someone like John Woo leading the pack for a film which is filled with crazy stunts, flips, and tricks, you would be forgiven to think that things must have gone rather smoothly for the most part. But that could not be further from the truth. Throughout the production of the movie, Woo would butt heads with producer of the film, Tom Cruise. When Woo thought more about establishing safety, Cruise would just double down on the danger. When the stuntmen were supposed to handle something, Cruise always swooped in to just do everything himself.
Tom is so clever because he had never trained for it. He had never learned any kung fu or martial art thing, you know. He just watched once. He just see how the stunt guy do it, and then he did it by himself. So that's so amazing.
And sometimes tempers were high between the actors and the director due to the language barrier and intense pressures. In an interview with Vulture, Thandie Newton shared her frustrations with Mission Impossible 2, mentioning how due to John Woo at the beginning of the production not communicating in English, it was difficult for her to nail a performance exactly how the director and her co-star wanted. And worse yet, Tom Cruise at times turned from amicable colleague to a dominant and frustrated producer. Something we'll see throughout this franchise. On one occasion, when John Woo was in a different room supervising the performances from a remote monitor, Newton struggled in delivering her lines as she believed the scene on the balcony wasn't very well written. Her repeated fumbles led to Cruise becoming increasingly more frustrated to the point where he decided to rehearse the scene with Newton, switching places for the rehearsal and humiliating the actress in the process.
This got personal as well as physical.
Okay. Would it make you feel any better if I didn't want you to do this?
Yeah, much.
Then feel better!
So we filmed the entire scene with me being him because, believe me, I knew the lines by then, and him playing me, and it was the most unhelpful. I can't think of anything less revealing. It just pushed me further into a place of terror and insecurity. It was a real shame, and bless him. I really do mean bless him, because he was trying his damnedest. The scene eventually was to be reshot, at which point Newton understood, finally, what Tom Cruise wanted from her, delivering a more alpha girl performance. While Tom Cruise didn't mean to be hurtful towards Newton, it was clear that the pressures from his dual roles eventually got to him. As the lead actor and producer of what would eventually become a long-running movie series, Tom Cruise was not just an actor for yet another film. He had a vested interest in the movie's performance, which also might be part of the reason why Cruise is such a daredevil on set. Of course, there were a lot of dangerous stunts on the many stages and locations of Mission Impossible 2, jumping down or across things, climbing rocky mountains to racing cars, and treating motorcycle chases like galloping on horseback. This movie had some, frankly, insane sequences. It would be a crime for us to not start with the opening scene here. Ethan Hunt is seen free climbing up a mountain, with the sequence shot with multiple cameras running at the same time. Even a helicopter is on location, sometimes getting dangerously close to the actor hanging off the ledge.
The shot was so critical. We had 5 cameras on the top of the cliff, and we also had a helicopter camera. And from the helicopter, I need a real close to Tom.
Tom Cruise's only safety is an invisible wire, and he reshot multiple takes of jumping from one part of the mountainside to the other, taking the same impact over and over again. The backgrounds and foregrounds have the same color, and it is difficult to discern how far away things are or where exactly Tom Cruise is. The disorienting landscape and the depths below the actor turned free climber are terrifying.
The idea came from Tom, and he told me he liked rock climbing. We tried to use the scene to establish Ethan Hunt's new character. We wanted to create a new kind of hero.
Normally, a set would be constructed in order to make the shoot much safer. Normally, the lead star of such a film would have reservations about free climbing on the side of an actual mountain. Yet, as most of you already know, Tom Cruise and his movies are not normal.
We had first brought in a climber. He's a world-class climber. His name's Ron Koch, just to teach Tom some of the moves and things so he could look correct. We thought at the time that Ron would be doing a substantial bit of it, but in the end he did nothing.
After the opening of the film, we got to see so much more action. 2 things come to mind immediately. That one time Tom Cruise rode through the fire completely unprotected, and the way John Woo instructed the actors to treat motorcycles essentially like how the characters would interact with horses in Western movies.
I'm a big fan of the Western, the cowboy and the Indian, the kind of thing, that kind of movie. So I was thinking, if you can use the motorcycle instead of a horse.
One cowboy cliche which made it into the film was the moment when Ethan Hunt hung off the side of the bike to evade gunshots from his adversaries. This was all done in motion, but of course Tom Cruise didn't actually do this unassisted. The motorcycle was towed by a truck, and Cruise was secured with a cable to make sure he didn't hurt himself if he were to fall off the bike. His feet skiing onto the asphalt, that was happening for real.
We towed the motorcycle by a tow truck, which was a pretty horrendous thing to see. It was basically had a long arm that we used a tow truck arm with a cable hanging by it, and Tom has a safety cable again in case he falls. And the idea is he's able to jump off the bike, ski, and if he were to fall, he's hanging by the arm of the tow truck. It's still difficult though. He's still skiing, he's still going 50 miles an hour, and his feet are still sliding on the ground.
This motorcycle as a horse allegory was taken to its extreme when Ethan Hunt and his rival jumped off their bikes to catch each other in the air.
The idea came from the old movie called Ivanhoe. I mean, or maybe something like the Knights of the Round Table. The famous scene was that there's two knights on horseback, and they were holding a long spear and charging each other, and they using the spear. When they're getting closer, they're using the spear to stick to each other, and then they both fell off the horse.
This joust came to be a great channel for the crew, especially the stunt coordinator Brian. The idea was complicated and initially seemingly too difficult to actually pull off.
The motorcycle joust was the most complex stunt for me to set up. When John first came up with the idea, I paused for a little while because I didn't know how I was going to make it happen.
However, Brian found a solution. With the motorcycle set to run along tracks and wire rigs, you could shoot a scene of two men jumping off their motorcycles without anyone getting injured. The wires were configured in such a way that when lifting off the bike, the actors would be jolted up and away from the motorcycles. As for riding a bike through flames, while it looks really impressive, it may not be as dangerous as it seems. There is no real trick to the effect. There is a wall of flames, which is achieved by using a flame bar, with which one can set the intensity of the flames shooting out, and all Tom Cruise needs to do is quickly pass through them.
There really is no trick to it. Basically, you ride through the flame.
You can't see past it, which is a really weird feeling.
Now, if you were to fall or crash and you're in the flames, then you're in trouble. So it's still a dangerous situation, but it's a good moment for Tom because it's, you can do it slow motion. The flames are there. There's no trickery. He's riding the motorcycle through flames.
Well, it looks impressive, and don't get me wrong, it is. This stunt actually was on the safer side of the scale of dangerous Tom Cruise signed up to do. But for the next stunt we're about to show, there was a far greater risk of bodily injury if things went wrong. Surprisingly, this is not CG. Nor did John Woo really want Tom Cruise to shoot this sequence, as only a single twitch or jolt from Cruise could injure him badly. John Woo came up with this idea somewhat spontaneously, wanting to depict the antagonist of the film playing dirty. During the fight, he jumps at Ethan Hunt with his knife, almost stabbing him in the eye. The scene we see in the final movie only came to be with a repeated instance from Tom Cruise to film the knife stopping only about a quarter inch away from his eyeball.
Tom said, "Hey, how about just right into my eyes?" I said, no, Tom, it's very, very dangerous.
Now, we had a real knife that was really sharp and really pointy. There was no faking that. What we did do was we had a cable attached to the end of the knife.
The effect itself was quite simple. With a strong enough bar and wire, the knife can only travel so far, as it is guaranteed to stop when the wire is fully pulled. Human error, however, is still a major concern. What if the actor or double plunging the knife into Cruise's face is imprecise and accidentally stabs him in the nose, brow, or forehead? What if the wire fails in some way? The bar could have been snapped as well. Now, while there were many practical stunts throughout this film, one of the more complicated ones that involved helicopters and Tom Cruise essentially free-falling by wire to sneak into a building was shot on a green screen. But even though this was shot in a studio with green screen, Tom Cruise still had to perform the stunt for real.
There was a green screen background in which they put the background on, and then there was also a shaft which we built. Tom would do this decelerator down in through the shaft. The idea is he basically is free falling on a rope, so we needed accuracy to where he'd go head down, full speed, stop on a mark every time consistently so the camera could catch it.
Unsurprisingly, Cruise was very adamant about being the one to do it, putting his trust in the riggers who set up the complex system to decelerate him at the right time before he hit the camera. And they performed this stunt a lot. 30 to 40 times, in fact.
So the hardest part is really maintaining the body position over and over again for every take that he does, and not breaking character when you're stopping 6 inches above a camera.
Production would wrap up on December 15th, 1999, and it wouldn't take too long for the rumor mill to mention some tensions. between the director and Cruise, with Cruise accused of trying to hijack the film and heavily influence the edit. But in recent years, John Woo brought his own perspectives to that rumor, saying actually he couldn't do that. But after the movie finished, he went to Australia for vacation, and then he wanted to put a camera in the cutting room to see our work because he wanted to know what we were doing. And we didn't allow him to do that. He changed his mind. I said I needed to cut my film without any interference, and he understood. But this wouldn't keep the studio from getting him to cut down his film. This would go on to be the director's highest grossing film of his career and would be wildly successful, even against mixed reviews from audiences and critics. And this success would help to keep the franchise afloat and start the 6-year journey to make Mission Impossible 3. And you can watch the story of that crazy production right here.